They called her the Ice Queen, the brilliant doctor who never smiled, never connected, never let anyone close. Then Danny Reyes walked into her clinic with his sick daughter and a warmth that refused to be frozen out. He was determined to find the woman beneath the frost. What he discovered was a heartbreak that explained everything, and a love story neither of them saw coming. Dr. Elena Vance walked through the hospital corridors like winter itself had taken human form. Nurses stepped aside when they saw her coming. Residents avoided eye contact. Even attending physicians, colleagues who'd known her for years, spoke to her only when absolutely necessary. The Ice Queen. That's what they called her behind her back, sometimes to her face when they thought she couldn't hear. Elena heard everything. She just didn't care. Caring was dangerous. Caring meant feeling, and feeling meant pain, and pain was something Elena Vance had experienced enough of for 10 lifetimes. She reviewed her patient files for the day with clinical precision. 3 consultations, 2 follow-ups, 1 new case. A 7-year-old girl with a complex neurological condition that had stumped every other specialist her father had consulted. Dr. Vance? Her assistant, a young woman who'd lasted longer than most because she'd learned not to take Elena's coldness personally, appeared in the doorway. "Your 10 o'clock is here. The Reyes family. Send them in." Elena didn't look up from her files. She'd learned long ago that first impressions meant nothing. What mattered was the data, the symptoms, the scans. Patients were puzzles to be solved, not people to be connected with. That's what she told herself anyway. The door opened, and a man's voice filled the room like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Wow, this is fancy. Sophia, look at all those diplomas. Your doctor must be really smart." "The smartest in the country," a small voice replied. "That's what the internet said." "The internet doesn't lie." "Well, sometimes it lies. But not about important things like doctors." Elena finally looked up, ready to establish boundaries immediately, and found herself face to face with the warmest smile she'd seen in years. Daniel Reyes was not what she'd expected. The file said single father, high school teacher, average income. She'd pictured someone tired, beaten down by circumstances, desperate. Instead, she saw a man who looked like he'd just heard the world's best joke and couldn't wait to share it. Dark curly hair that clearly hadn't seen a comb that morning. Brown eyes that crinkled at the corners. A face made for laughter. And beside him, holding his hand, was a little girl with the same curly hair and curious eyes. She was small for 7, pale in the way sick children often were, but she looked at Elena with an expression of frank assessment that was almost adult. "You're the Ice Queen," Sophia said. "Sophia." Danny's face flushed. "I'm so sorry, Dr. Vance. Kids say the darndest things, and she heard some nurses talking in the waiting room, and it's accurate." Elena cut him off, her voice flat. "Please sit down, Mr. Reyes. I've reviewed Sophia's files. Her condition is complex but not untreatable." She launched into a clinical explanation of Sophia's diagnosis, a rare neurological disorder affecting motor function and sensory processing. She'd seen cases like this before. She knew exactly what needed to be done. What she didn't expect was Danny's response. "That's incredible," he said when she finished. "You explained that so clearly. Most doctors use so much jargon that I need a translator. You actually made sense." Elena blinked. "I was just explaining the diagnosis." "Yeah, but you did it like you wanted me to understand, not like you wanted to sound impressive." Danny leaned forward, his smile widening. "I appreciate that. Sophia does too, right, Mia?" "Dr. Vance," Sophia said seriously, "are you going to make me better?" Elena looked at the little girl. The question was simple, but the weight behind it was enormous. Children always asked the questions adults were too afraid to voice. "I'm going to try," Elena said. "I can't promise miracles, but I can promise I'll do everything in my power. That's good enough for me." Sophia nodded like they'd just signed a contract. "Daddy says trying is the most important thing. Daddy sounds wise. Daddy is the best." Sophia looked at her father with such pure adoration that something twisted in Elena's chest. She pushed it down. She was good at pushing things down. "We'll start with a new round of tests," Elena said, returning to business. "I want beta-id imaging and a full neurological workup. My assistant will schedule everything." "Thank you, Dr. Vance." Danny stood, extending his hand. "I know you're probably busy with important doctor things, but I just want you to know. We've been to 6 specialists. None of them gave us hope. You're the first one who seemed like you actually believed Sophia could get better." Elena shook his hand automatically. His grip was warm, firm, genuine. "I don't deal in hope, Mr. Reyes. I deal in science. Sometimes those are the same thing." His smile didn't waver. "See you at the follow-up, Dr. Vance. And for the record, I don't think you're an ice queen. I think you're just someone who's forgotten how to be warm." He left before she could respond, Sophia waving goodbye from the doorway. Elena sat in silence for a long moment, staring at the empty space where they'd been. Forgotten how to be warm. No one had ever said that to her before. No one had ever looked at her coldness and seen it as something temporary, something that could be fixed. No one had ever looked at her with that much kindness. She shook her head, returning to her files. Daniel Reyes was just another patient's father. His warmth was irrelevant. His smile was irrelevant. His ridiculous optimism was especially irrelevant. She had work to do. But for the rest of the day, she couldn't stop thinking about warm brown eyes and a smile that refused to fade. Danny Reyes had a theory about Dr. Elena Vance. Most people saw her coldness and assumed that's all there was. A brilliant machine wrapped in human skin. Someone who'd traded her humanity for medical expertise. Danny saw something different. He saw the way her eyes flickered when Sophia smiled at her. The almost imperceptible softening of her jaw when she talked about treatment options. The careful, gentle way she'd examined his daughter, despite her icy demeanor. Dr. Vance wasn't cold. She was frozen. There was a difference. Cold meant empty. Frozen meant there was warmth buried underneath, trapped by something that had hurt too much to process. Danny knew about frozen. He'd been there himself, in the months after Maria died giving birth to Sophia. He'd shut down, gone through the motions, felt like his heart had been replaced by a block of ice. But Sophia had melted him. Her first smile, her first word, her tiny hand wrapped around his finger. She'd brought him back to life. Maybe Dr. Vance just needed someone to do the same for her. Over the next few weeks, as Sophia underwent tests and evaluations, Danny made it his mission to chip away at the ice. He brought coffee. She didn't drink it, but he noticed her assistant did, so he started bringing 2. He asked questions that weren't about Sophia's condition. "Do you like being a doctor? Have you always worked here? What's your favorite part of the job?" She deflected every time, steering the conversation back to medical matters. But Danny caught the surprise in her eyes. The confusion. Like she didn't understand why anyone would want to know about her as a person. "You're persistent," she said during their 3rd appointment, after he'd spent 10 minutes asking about her opinion on hospital cafeteria food. "I prefer enthusiastically curious." Danny grinned. "My students call me Mr. R, the Relentless. I take it as a compliment. It wasn't meant as one. Most compliments aren't. The best ones are accidental." Elena stared at him like he was a species she'd never encountered before. Sophia's latest scans show improvement, she said, clearly trying to regain control of the conversation. That's amazing. Danny's face lit up. Sophia, did you hear that? Sophia looked up from the picture she was drawing at Elena's desk, something Elena had reluctantly allowed after the girl had asked if she could borrow some paper. I knew Dr. Vance would fix me, Sophia said matter-of-factly. She's the best. I haven't fixed anything yet, Elena said. We're just seeing positive early results. There's still a long way to go. But there's hope now. Danny met her eyes. That's what matters. There was that word again. Hope. Elena flinched like he'd struck her. Dr. Ryu. Vance? Danny frowned. Are you okay? Fine. She stood abruptly, turning to face the window. I have other appointments. My assistant will schedule the next round of tests. It was a dismissal. Clear and cold. Danny should have taken the hint. Instead, he walked over to stand beside her. I don't know what happened to you, he said quietly, so Sophia couldn't hear. And I'm not going to ask, because that's not my business. But I want you to know something. Mr. Reyes, Danny, please. She turned to look at him, and for just a moment, her mask slipped. He saw the exhaustion beneath. The pain. The desperate loneliness of someone who'd forgotten how to let people in. Whatever happened, Danny continued, it doesn't have to define you forever. I know that probably sounds like meaningless optimism from someone who doesn't understand. But I lost my wife 7 years ago. I know what it's like to build walls. Elena's breath caught. The walls helped for a while, Danny said. They kept the pain out, but they also kept everything else out. The joy, the connection, the reasons to keep going. Sophia saved me. She reminded me that walls are meant to be temporary, not permanent. Sophia is your daughter. I'm your doctor. You're a person. And whatever happened to you, whatever made you build these walls, it doesn't have to be the end of the story. It doesn't have to be the end of the story. Elena's jaw tightened. For a moment, Danny thought she might cry. Then, the ice returned, colder than ever. I think you should leave now, Mr. Reyes. Danny, Mr. Reyes, will contact you about the next appointment. Danny nodded slowly. He'd pushed too far, too fast. But he didn't regret it. Come on, Mia, he said to Sophia. Time to go. Sophia gathered her drawing and bounded over. At the door, she stopped and ran back to Elena's desk, leaving the picture behind. This is for you, she said. It's you and me and Daddy, because we're friends now. She ran out before Elena could respond. Elena looked at the drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands, one with yellow hair, one with brown, one small. Underneath in careful 7-year-old writing, Dr. B. Vance is my hero. Something cracked inside her. Something that had been frozen for a very long time. She told herself it didn't matter. That this was just another patient, another family, another case to be solved. But when her assistant came to collect the files, she found Dr. Elena Vance staring at a child's drawing with tears streaming silently down her face. Marcus Chen had known Elena Vance for 12 years. He'd been a resident when she'd arrived at the hospital, already brilliant, already cold. He'd watched her rise through the ranks, leaving a trail of impressed superiors and terrified subordinates. He'd seen colleagues try to befriend her and fail, seen romantic interests crash against her walls like ships against icebergs. In all those years, he'd never seen her cry, never seen her lose composure, never seen her be anything other than perfectly, precisely professional. Until now. He found her in her office after the Reyes family left, sitting at her desk, staring at a child's drawing like it held the secrets of the universe. Elena? He closed the door behind him. Talk to me. It's nothing. She wiped her face quickly, efficiently, like even tears needed to be managed. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're crying in your office over a patient's artwork." Marcus sat down across from her. "What's going on?" Elena was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she pushed the drawing across the desk. "Her name is Sophia. She has neurogenic motor dysfunction." "It's the same condition," her voice caught. "It's the same condition Lily had." Marcus's heart sank. He was one of the few people who knew about Lily, Elena's daughter, the daughter she'd lost 5 years ago to the very disease she now specialized in treating. "Oh, Elena. She looks nothing like her. Different coloring, different personality, different everything. But the way she looks at her father," Elena's hand trembled. "Lily used to look at Richard that way. Like he hung the moon. Richard was never worthy of that look." "No, he wasn't." Elena's jaw tightened, but Lily didn't know that. She just knew her daddy, and she loved him. Until he decided that our grief was too much to handle and walked away. He was a coward. He was human. I wasn't. Not after Lily died. I turned into something cold and hard and impossible to live with. He told me as much when he left. He told you that to justify his own weakness. You were grieving. You needed support, not abandonment. Maybe. Elena looked at the drawing again. This man, Danny Reyes, he lost his wife, raised his daughter alone. And he's still, she shook her head, he's still warm, still hopeful, still able to smile like the world hasn't shattered into pieces. Some people process grief differently. It's not just processing. It's fundamentally who he is. He looks at me and doesn't see the Ice Queen. He sees someone frozen who just needs to thaw. Elena laughed bitterly. Like it's that simple. Maybe it's simpler than you think. Elena looked at her friend, her one friend, the only person who'd stuck around long enough to see past her walls. "I can't, Marcus. I can't let someone in again. Not after Richard. Not after Lily. Can't or won't. Does it matter? It matters." Marcus leaned forward. "Elena, I've watched you punish yourself for 5 years. You've saved hundreds of children with this specialty you built from your own grief. But you've sacrificed your own life in the process. My life is my work. Your work is remarkable. But it's not enough." He nodded toward the drawing. "That little girl drew you as her hero. Her father looks at you like you're a puzzle he wants to solve. When was the last time someone wanted to solve you, Elena? When was the last time you let them try?" Elena didn't answer. She didn't have to. The truth was, she couldn't remember. Somewhere along the way, she'd stopped being a person and started being a function. A machine that healed children because she couldn't heal herself. "I don't know how," she finally said. "Even if I wanted to, I don't know how to be warm anymore." "Then let him teach you." Marcus stood. "Danny Reyes seems like a man who has warmth to spare. Maybe some of it could rub off. That's unprofessional. So is crying over patient artwork, but here we are." He smiled gently. "Just think about it. That's all I'm asking." He left her alone with the drawing and the impossible weight of everything she'd been avoiding. Danny Reyes saw her as someone who could thaw. What if he was right? The thought was terrifying. But beneath the terror, buried so deep she'd almost forgotten it existed, was something else. Hope. She hated that word. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop hating it. Maybe it was time to try. The next time Danny saw Dr. Vance, something was different. She was still professional, still precise, still wearing her ice like armor. But there was a crack in the frost, a hesitation in her coldness, like she was trying to decide whether to keep her walls up or start taking them down. Danny decided to help her decide. "Dr. Vance," he said, after she'd finished explaining Sophia's latest test results, Can I ask you something personal? That depends on the question. Do you like music? She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Music? I'm a music teacher. Sophia's school is having a winter concert next week, and I'm directing it. She has a small solo. Nothing too strenuous. The doctors cleared it, and she really wants you to come. Elena looked at Sophia, who was nodding vigorously. Please, Dr. Vance. Daddy says you probably have important doctor stuff, but I told him you'd come anyway because we're friends. We're friends? Obviously. Sophia said it like it was the most apparent thing in the world. I gave you a drawing. That means we're friends. Danny watched Elena's face cycle through several emotions. Surprise, confusion, something that might have been longing. I don't usually attend patient events, she said finally. There's a first time for everything. Danny smiled. Come on, Dr. Vance. One concert. 2 hours max. You might even enjoy yourself. I doubt that. Then, come anyway. For Sophia, it was low, using his daughter as leverage, but Danny had seen the way Elena looked at Sophia. There was something there, something deeper than professional interest. Please? Peace? Sophia added, and it was the final blow. Fine, Elena said. One concert. That's all. That's all we need. Danny's grin was triumphant. I'll save you a seat in the front row. The concert was held in the school auditorium, packed with parents and grandparents and siblings waving programs. Danny stood backstage, helping nervous students with last-minute adjustments, but his eyes kept drifting to the audience. She'd come. Dr. Elena Vance sat in the front row, looking spectacularly out of place in her designer coat and perfect hair. She wasn't talking to anyone, wasn't smiling, wasn't doing any of the things normal audience members did. But she'd come. The concert was magical. Not because the children were perfect. They weren't. Kids forgot lines, came in too early, sang off-key. But there was a joy to it, a pure and unfiltered love of music that transcended technical skill. And then it was Sophia's turn. She walked to center stage, tiny and brave, and Danny felt his heart swell with pride. His little girl, fighting a condition that could have kept her bedridden, standing in front of hundreds of people. She sang Silent Night. Her voice was clear and sweet, not powerful but beautiful in its simplicity. Danny watched Elena's face as she listened. The Ice Queen was crying, not sobbing, not breaking down, just silent tears tracking down her perfect face, her mask completely gone. She looked devastated and transported and broken and healed all at once. When Sophia finished, the audience erupted in applause. But Elena didn't clap. She just sat there, hands in her lap, tears still falling. After the concert, Danny found her in the hallway, clearly trying to escape before anyone noticed her breakdown. Dr. Vance? She stopped, but didn't turn around. I should go. Please don't. He walked around to face her. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. You were crying. I had something in my eye. For the entire song, Mr. Reyes, Danny. Please? Just this once. She looked at him then, and he saw the war raging behind her eyes, the part of her that wanted to run versus the part that wanted to stay. I had a daughter, she said quietly. She loved Silent Night. It was her favorite. Danny's heart stopped. Had? Lily. She died 5 years ago. The same condition Sophia has. Elena's voice was barely a whisper. I couldn't save her. I've spent every day since trying to save other people's children because I couldn't save mine. The pieces fell into place. The specialization, the coldness, the walls so high they blocked out the sun. Elena. It was the first time he'd used her name. Please don't. She held up a hand. Don't pity me. Don't try to fix me. I've heard all the platitudes, done all the therapy, processed all the grief I can process. This is who I am now. This isn't who you are. This is who you became to survive. Danny stepped closer. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. He took her hand, half expecting her to pull away. She didn't. Survival mode is supposed to be temporary. But you've been living in it for 5 years. It's not protecting you anymore, Elena. It's imprisoning you. And what do you suggest? That I just let it go? Move on? Find closure? Her voice was bitter. You think I haven't tried? I think you've been trying alone. I think you pushed everyone away because it felt safer. I think you forgot that healing isn't a solo journey. Danny, his name on her lips was almost a plea. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let someone in. Then learn. He squeezed her hand. Let me teach you. Let Sophia teach you. We're not going anywhere. Why? Why do you even care? Because I see you. His voice was fierce. I see the woman who cries at children's concerts and keeps patient artwork on her desk and fights every day to save kids she'll never meet. I see someone who loved so hard that losing it broke her. And I see someone worth fighting for. Elena stared at him, tears threatening again. I might hurt you, she whispered. I might push you away. I might be too broken to fix. Then we'll be broken together. Danny smiled. I hear that's the best way to heal. For a long moment, Elena didn't move. Then, slowly, carefully, like she was stepping onto ice she wasn't sure would hold her, she stepped closer and let him hold her. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a declaration. It was just two people standing in a school hallway, holding each other, both terrified and both brave. It was a beginning. Learning to thaw was harder than Elena expected. Years of ice didn't melt overnight. There were setbacks, moments when the walls went back up, when old habits kicked in, when the fear of feeling became too much. Danny was patient through all of it. Patient when she canceled dinners at the last minute. Patient when she couldn't say how she felt. Patient when she pushed him away only to pull him back hours later. You're not getting tired of this? She asked one evening, 3 months into whatever this was. They were at his apartment, Sophia asleep in the other room, and Elena was curled on his couch looking more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. Of what? Of me. Of this project. Trying to fix the unfixable woman. You're not a project. Danny set down his guitar. He'd been playing softly while she worked on charts. And you're not unfixable. You're healing. There's a difference. It doesn't feel like healing. It feels like falling apart. Sometimes falling apart is the first step. He sat beside her, close, but not touching. He'd learned to let her set the pace for physical contact. When Maria died, I didn't cry for 3 months. I was so focused on being strong for Sophia that I didn't let myself feel anything. Then one day, I was making her lunch, and I cut my finger, and suddenly, I was on the kitchen floor, sobbing. Over a cut finger, over everything. The finger was just the trigger. He smiled at the memory. I fell apart completely. Couldn't stop crying for 2 hours. But after that, something shifted. I started actually processing instead of just surviving. I'm afraid that if I fall apart, I won't be able to put myself back together. Then I'll help you put yourself back together. That's what partners do. Elena looked at him, this impossible man who saw her as something other than a lost cause. Partners? Is that too forward? Danny's smile was gentle. We don't have to label it. We don't have to be anything except what we are. I just want you to know that I'm here. For all of it. She reached out then, for the first time initiating contact, and took his hand. I saw Richard last week, she said quietly, my ex-husband. He's at the hospital for a conference. Danny's expression didn't change, but she felt him tense slightly. How was that? Awful. He tried to apologize. Said he'd changed, grown, processed his own grief. Asked if we could get coffee and talk. What did you say? I said no. Elena squeezed his hand. A year ago, I might have said yes. Might have let him back in because I didn't believe anyone else would want me. But now, she took a breath. Now I know better. Now I have someone who actually sees me. Danny's face softened. Elena, I love you. The words came out before she could stop them. She felt her face flush, felt the old instinct to take it back, to hide behind walls. But Danny was smiling, not his usual easy grin, something deeper, more serious. I love you too, he said. I've loved you too, he said. I've loved you too, he said. I've loved you since you let Sophia draw on your desk. Maybe even before. This is terrifying. The best things usually are. He kissed her then, soft and slow. Nothing like the passionate kisses in movies. This was something quieter, more profound, a promise, a beginning. When they pulled apart, Sophia's voice came from the doorway. Finally, she stood there in her pajamas, hands on her hips. Daddy, I've been waiting forever for you to kiss, Doctor. Vance, you were supposed to be asleep, Mia. I was? But then I had to pee. And then I heard talking, and then... She ran over and threw herself between them on the couch. Does this mean Dr. Vance is going to be my mom? Elena froze. The question hit her like a physical blow, unlocking grief she thought she'd buried. Sophia, that's a big question, Danny said carefully, watching Elena's face. I know. That's why I asked it. Sophia looked at Elena with those two wise eyes. I know you had a daughter who went to heaven. Daddy told me, and I'm sorry she's not here anymore. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. But maybe, Sophia continued, maybe she sent me? Like, maybe she's in heaven, and she saw you were sad, and she found me and said, hey, my mommy needs someone to love. And then she made my brain sick so we'd have to come see you. It was ridiculous. It was impossible. It was the most beautiful thing Elena had ever heard. I don't think it works that way, sweetheart, she managed. You don't know. Nobody knows how heaven works. But I believe it. Sophia snuggled closer. I believe Lily sent me to find you. Elena broke. Years of held-back tears came flooding out. She cried for Lily. For the years she'd lost. For the walls she'd built. For the love she'd almost missed. She cried in front of Danny and Sophia without shame, finally letting herself fall apart. And when she was done, Danny was still there. Sophia was still there. No one had left. See? Danny said softly, wiping her face with gentle hands. You fell apart, and we put you back together, just like I promised. Elena laughed through her tears. I'm a mess. You're our mess, Sophia declared. And we love you. Our. The word wrapped around Elena's heart like a blanket. She'd spent 5 years frozen. 5 years alone. 5 years believing that love had died with her daughter. She'd been wrong. Love hadn't died. It had just been waiting for the right people to bring it back to life. 1 year later, Elena stood in Sophia's hospital room, reviewing charts that showed what she'd hardly dared to hope. Complete remission. Sophia's neurological condition, the same one that had taken Lily, was responding to the treatment protocol Elena had developed. The latest scans showed remarkable improvement. If things continued this way, Sophia would have a normal life. Elena had saved her. The door opened, and Danny walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing that smile that still made her heart skip. "I come bearing caffeine," he announced. "And news. Sophia's teacher called. She made honor roll again. She's remarkable. She gets it from her doctor." Danny handed her a coffee and looked at the charts. "Good news? The best news." Elena's voice caught. "Danny, she's going to be okay. Really, truly okay." Danny's face transformed with joy. He pulled her into a hug so tight it almost hurt. "Because of you," he whispered. "You saved her. We saved her. You brought her to me. You believed I could help when everyone else had given up. I believed in you. That's different." Elena pulled back, looking at this man who had changed everything, who had refused to be frozen out, who had seen her at her worst and stayed anyway. "Marry me," she said. Danny blinked. "What? I know that's supposed to be your line. I know I'm supposed to wait for a romantic moment with candles and rings and planned speeches." Elena shook her head. "But I've spent too much of my life waiting for grief to pass, waiting for walls to fall, waiting to feel ready for things I was never going to feel ready for." She took his hands. "I don't want to wait anymore. I want to marry you. I want to be Sophia's mother. I want to build a life with you that isn't about survival. It's about actually living." Danny stared at her for a long moment. Then a grin spread across his face. That warm, wonderful grin she'd fallen in love with. "You know I was planning to propose tonight, right? Were you?" "Had a whole thing planned. Dinner at that Italian place you pretend you don't like. Sophia was going to bring out the rain. There was going to be a guitarist." Elena laughed. "I'm sorry I ruined it." "Are you kidding? This is better. The Ice Queen proposing in a hospital room over coffee? Nobody's going to believe it. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes." Danny pulled her close, kissing her with all the warmth and joy she'd once believed she'd never feel again. "It's been a yes since the moment I met you. I was just waiting for you to be ready. I'm ready now." "I know." He grinned. "Took you long enough." Sophia burst into the room then, clearly having been eavesdropping outside. "Did she say yes? Wait, did she ask? Daddy, Dr. Vance proposed to you? She did. That's so cool." Sophia threw herself at both of them. "I'm going to have the coolest mom ever. A doctor mom who saves kids and proposes to dads. I'm getting better," Elena said, hugging the little girl who had helped save her at being cool. "You were always cool. You were always cool." Sophia pulled back, grinning. "You just didn't know it." They got married 3 months later, in a small ceremony in the hospital chapel. Elena's colleagues came, people who had once called her the Ice Queen, and now watched her smile like they were seeing a miracle. Marcus served as best man. Sophia was flower girl, ring bearer, and self-appointed wedding planner. And when Elena walked down the aisle toward Danny, she felt something she hadn't felt in 5 years. Warm.d. Truly, completely warm. "You look beautiful," Danny whispered when she reached him. "I look happy. Same thing." The ceremony was short and sweet. Vows were exchanged. Rings were given. And when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Sophia cheered loud enough to echo through the entire chapel. "I love you," Elena said against Danny's lips. "I love you too. More than music, more than coffee, more than guacamole," Sophia demanded. "Almost more than guacamole, Daddy Daitoish. Nobody loves anything more than guacamole." Elena laughed, a real laugh, the kind she'd forgotten she could make. Danny grinned. Sophia looked satisfied. "Come on," Danny said, taking Elena's hand with one hand and Sophia's with the other. "Let's go start our life. Let's go start our life." They walked out of the chapel together, A family formed from grief and hope and stubborn, persistent love. Elena had spent 5 years frozen, 5 years building walls, 5 years believing she'd never feel anything but cold. She'd been wrong. Because sometimes it takes the right person to remind you that ice is just water waiting to thaw. That walls are meant to be broken. That hearts, even broken ones, can learn to love again. Danny Reyes had seen her when no one else could. And Elena Vance, no longer the Ice Queen, no longer frozen, no longer alone, had finally found her way home. The end.